it's Ellie, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a video that I've seen all over the internet at the minute, and I'm going to be answering questions which you are too afraid to ask your mum, your parents, your friends, anything like that. I'm going to be answering these questions for you. I love the whole idea of this video because I know that a lot of my followers are teenagers, and when you first become a teenager, and especially like between the ages of like 12 and 16, there's like a whole lot going on, so many changes, and it can be really stressful. And if you're scared to ask about that, it can be really like scary and intimidating. So I am here to help. You guys asked me questions over on my Instagram, and I'm going to be answering a ton of these today and hopefully helping you guys with whatever your question may be about. So let's just get into the questions. The first question is on toxic friends, and it is, what should I do if I miss my ex-friends even though they were toxic? I think at some point we all have those friends that are like, you know, we kind of love them but kind of have to cut them out because the friendship is not good for us. What I would say is people do change, and although that they're toxic now, it doesn't mean they're going to be a toxic friend forever. And for that reason, I wouldn't want to completely cut ties. I would just distance yourself like as much as feels comfortable, but you can still talk to that person by all means. You can still like say, hi, you're right, or like, I don't know, you can like talk to them in class or anything like that. Just don't make yourself so close to that person that what they say is going to have a huge impact on you. Like, distance yourself from their toxicness, but you don't have to distance yourself so far that you're like in different countries. Do you get what I mean? So basically just stay civil with this person, because you don't know if they're going to change, and in a year or 2 years, 3 years, even a couple of months, they may be a way better person than they were before and a better friend to you. So if you miss them, don't cut them out completely, just keep them somewhere in the picture but not too close. Hopefully that helps. This next question is a little bit deeper, but I think that it's really important to talk about because so many people go through this. The question is about how I dealt with my parents splitting up and my advice for anyone else whose parents are breaking up, getting a divorce, anything like that. Now, personally, my parents got a divorce when I was like 4 years old, so for me at the time, I didn't really understand exactly what was going on, and to me it was just like, oh, mummy and daddy don't live together anymore, okay. So at the actual time, I didn't really understand, but when I was a little bit older, like between probably like 6 and 10, is when it kind of like annoyed me maybe. So my advice in terms of the long run is you have to accept and understand some things, and that is, firstly, your parents splitting up has nothing to do with you. If anything, they are probably like worrying about how it's going to affect you or upset you, but you've got to realise that this is completely to do with your parents and their happiness, and if you love your parents, then you're going to have to accept that they're going to be happier apart, and in the long run it will be better for you as well. And the other thing which I think is so important that you have to kind of like accept in order to move on is that you can't make your parents get back together. No one can make them get back together. Trust me, like when I was younger, I used to have these little plans in my head, and I'm like, yeah, I have this plan down to a T to get my parents back together. It was never gonna work. It was always a bad idea. And then I also used to plan, like, I wanted my parents to get back together, but then I would feel really bad for my step parents, so I wanted them to get together. Never would have worked. Just ideas that you should not try and make happen. But honestly, your parents splitting up is always going to be a hard thing because it's a big change, but if you can, then I would just say stay close to both parents. Even if you have to like live with one parent, then ask, can I visit my dad, or can I go see my mum on the weekend, things like that, because your parents aren't going to get mad if you want to see the other parent. They're going to come around, they're going to understand it, and in the long run, trust me, they're going to be happier and therefore you're going to be happier. So it's just how it is sometimes. It's not ideal in the first place, but in the long run, it's definitely for the best, and you have to accept that, really. Okay, this question is about boys, and it is, what do I do if I like a boy and he doesn't like me back? The first thing I would say is, do you know for sure that he doesn't like you back? Is he playing hard to get? Is he like, you know, like having a bit of like flirtatious banter maybe? Because you know, he might like you. If he actually doesn't like you back, and you know this for a fact, you've kind of like shot your shot and he's been like kind of like no, then unfortunately that means it's time to try and move on and forget that guy, because he is not worth your time, not worth your energy, and you deserve better. You deserve someone that like really like fancies you, really thinks you're a nice person, loves everything about your personality, and if he doesn't see that, then someone else will. So say boy bye and move on. However hard that may be, because I know it's hard to get over a crush, but like sooner or later there'll be a new boy that you like, and maybe he'll like you, or maybe another boy already fancies you, so no stress, there's someone out there for everyone. The next question is also on boys, and it is, what age is the right age to get your first boyfriend? Now, a lot of people will probably disagree with what I'm gonna say, but I think you can literally have a boyfriend at any age ever. Like, having a boyfriend isn't inappropriate. Like, I had my first boyfriend when I was like 6, and like, yeah, I was 6, so it's literally just jokes. But then, you know, there's kind of this awkward age, like when you maybe go to high school, like year 6 to like year 8 or 9, when it's like, you know, boys are weird, or like, oh my god, do you fancy him, OMG, because that's the age when you're gonna like kiss a boy, you know, or like that kind of thing. And so that's when it kind of becomes a little bit different. But I don't think there should be like an age when you can have a boyfriend, because honestly, just because you have a boyfriend, it doesn't mean like anything inappropriate is gonna happen. Like, if you have a boyfriend when you're 10 and you want to like hold hands and play at the park together, you do that, you know, like you do what you want to do, and I think it's completely up to you. However, of course, obviously it's also up to your parents, and you know, if your parents don't want you to get a boyfriend at a young age, then I would say respect that, because your relationship with your parents is way more important than a relationship with whoever you fancy at a young age, if you get me, because they're still going to be there when you're 16, you know. These next couple of questions are about period. It's everyone's favourite thing. So these two first questions are linked together, and it is, how do I tell my mum that I've got my period? And secondly, how do I ask my mum to buy me pads? And these are both questions that, like, I would have definitely been nervous about this before I started my period, but actually it's not that awkward. Like, if you think about it, you should not be awkward asking your mum about like buying pads and stuff and being on your period, because like your mum definitely has a period or has had one at some point in her life, so it shouldn't really be an awkward question. If you've not started your period yet, then how I would ask your mum is like, bring it up in conversation and say like, oh, like some of my friends have like got their period and like I'm a bit worried, like am I gonna get mine soon? And just like talk to her about it. Try and be as open as possible, because at the end of the day your mum is not gonna think that is weird. She's not gonna be like, OMG, gross. Like, she's a girl too, she gets it. And if you're like nervous to talk to your mum about it, if you have like an older sister or even a friend that you can talk to, then they'll like surely make you feel more comfortable, and that's what we want really. The next question is, does it hurt to put in a tampon? And honestly, no it doesn't, as long as you're doing it right. If you're nervous about a tampon hurting, I would definitely use an applicator one, which is basically, I will show you. This is so weird, I'm doing like a tampon demonstration on YouTube, okay. This is what an applicator tampon looks like. It's basically that it's in this little plastic thing, and then you like, okay, you pull it like this, and then you put it in your hoo-ha. You just like put it in, push this, and then it just like boom. And because of like this and like this, the whole, how this little thing works, it means that it stays in the right place and it will just like sit where it's supposed to. Whereas if you're doing it without an applicator, then it's kind of like a bit fiddly sometimes, and you can kind of like, I don't know, I just don't like doing it without an applicator. I think it's a bit yucky. But with an applicator, not much can go wrong, and you're just gonna have a happy little tampon. The only time it would hurt if you were putting it in like really at the wrong angle, or if you were trying to put in a tampon that was like super sized when you've only just started your period and you only need like a little light sized tampon. So if you have just started your period and if you've got quite a light period, then I would definitely say use a really small light tampon. Because there's no point using a big one, that's just unnecessary, you know. And this leads on to the next question, which is, which should I use, tampons or pads? Now there's a few pros and cons for all of these, which I'll happily explain for you. These babies are great for if you're having a light period, because if you're having a light period, you don't really want this to come out dry, because that's kind of gross. But like, this is fine for a light period, it's super easy. Also, if you are nervous about using a tampon, obviously pads is your go-to. First period, I would always use a pad, because that's just so much easier, and also just like full stop, like that's gonna be a lot easier than using a tampon. However, benefits of a tampon is that this is really gross, but it's like inside you, and so you don't have to like, with a pad, obviously your like period blood is going to be on the pad and you're going to be like sitting in it until you change your pad. So that's a little bit gross to me, I think, whereas a tampon is like inside you and it stays inside you till you choose to take it out. So you're not going to be like sitting in period blood, which is always something I thought was kind of gross. But honestly, it's down to personal preference. I think I prefer tampons, but like it honestly depends on my mood, on the day, and like the period, honestly. So squad. I also had a lot of questions talking about periods, saying like, all my friends have started my period, I've not started my period yet, or like, how old were you when you got your period, because I've not started mine yet. And honestly guys, everyone starts their period at completely different times, and it's not something to stress about. Like if you're 14, 15, 16 and you've not got your period yet, honestly you're lucky, and I would not stress, because you don't really want a period, to be honest. It's kind of gross, kind of annoying, kind of uncomfortable, like you don't want cramps. I remember when I learned about like periods and stuff in high school, they said that if you're like nearly 17 and you've not started your period yet, that's when maybe you want to like talk to a doctor or like your school nurse or something and just be like, hey, I've not started my period, because chances are it'll be like because you're like small. If you're quite slim sometimes, then you won't get a period. If you like, your diet can affect your period, like literally everything. And so like don't stress basically. And I started my period just before I turned 16. I was like 15 and a half, I think. And so compared to some of my friends that got their period when they were like 11 and 12, I was like, oh my god, like late bloomer. But honestly, I'm kind of blessed for that. And like I have friends that literally started their period at age 17, so kind of jealous of them, to be honest. The next question is about advice for GCSEs or exams. And this person who messaged in about this was so nervous, and I felt really bad. I just wanted to give you a hug. So if you're watching this, I want to give you a hug, and I'm sorry that you are stressing about your exams. Obviously, the key thing to do for your GCSEs, for your like year 6 sats, for your A-levels, literally anything, is going to be to revise. And the way I think is best to do that is by doing loads and loads and loads of past papers. This is because if you just get random questions online, then the style of how they want you to answer it might be different than how it is in an actual exam paper. So if you print off exam papers, do them at home, mark them at home yourself, then you can kind of like learn it as you go along. And it's, for me at least, that was probably the best way to learn, especially for subjects like maths and science, where it's kind of like laid out in front of you, like the step-by-step kind of thing. Also, exam boards are lazy. They reuse questions, so if you've done past papers, chances are like one of the questions or something very similar is going to be on your exam paper, so you can kind of get heads up by doing that, you know. But literally with most of the things, to me at least, it's just practice. Like English skills, practice them. Drama, practice your like monologue, or practice your performance or your written work. Do your research, and honestly just spend time on it. With that said, you don't want to like be studying 24/7. You still need a life, and I don't mean that just like, oh, you need a life to have fun. Like generally you need a life, or you're gonna get way too stressed, you're gonna get way too like confused. You can't deal with all that information coming at you. So study for an hour, take half an hour break, study for an hour, take half an hour break, and have a day off. Like you deserve it. And literally clearing your head, even if it's like a day by yourself, a day go out with your friends, go out with your family, go shopping, anything, that day where you just clear your head and relax is going to help you so much when it comes to actually sitting down and taking your GCSEs and being not stressed. So good luck, don't stress, you'll be absolutely amazing. And honestly, like the moment from sitting your first GCSE to doing your last is gonna literally fly by. I'm not joking. Like you'll be doing your first and then it'll feel like 2 minutes later you've finished all your GCSEs and you're done and dusted. Honestly, I promise that. So yeah. So guys, that is all the questions that I'm going to be answering. I hope you enjoyed this video, and whether you're like 10 or 30, I hope this video helped you in some way, shape or form, because honestly that is the whole reason I made this video, is I want to help you guys and I want to be like a big sister to you, so call me big sis. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed. Please give this video a great big thumbs up, because I'm trying to reach 2,000 thumbs up on this video. You can also subscribe with that big red subscribe button and turn on notifications, because I post every Sunday and every Wednesday and you don't want to miss a thing. You can also stay up to date by following all of my social media, which will be linked in the description box below. And I guess the only thing left to say is I love you a lotty, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys!